G'day, AJ.
Hello, Mo. How are you?
I'm good, mate. How are you?
I'm doing pretty good.
Fantastic.
Oh.
Welcome to Songs on the Couch.
Yes, welcome everyone to Songs on the Couch. Not just you and I,
No,
but welcome
no,
everyone.
no. We might have an audience.
I think I can guarantee we will have an audience. Don't you worry about that.
Okay.
Yeah,
All right. So
positive vibes.
positive vibes. So this little podcast is just, real quick in a nutshell. We'll get into the
Mm,
specifics later, but we are here to take a deep dive into the sonic and psychological elements of popular songs, just for shits and gigs,
mm,
right?
that's it. Well, not just the sonic psychological elements, as well as the musical elements
Yes.
of the podcast. There's going to be two parts of it, everyone, where we talk about the music and then the psycho analysis side of it as well. But
That's
Mel,
right.
before
Yeah.
we
Okay.
tell everyone how the podcast is going to work,
hmm
tell me why did you want to do a podcast? Why did you want to do this podcast?
Why did I want to do this podcast? Very good question. I think I love music. I mean,
Mm,
I think we're both here because we love music. And I often found myself thinking, what the hell does this mean when I was listening to songs? And then I trained as a psychologist, psychotherapist, and then I really started thinking, what the hell is going on here in these
mm,
songs? And I think I've always not been able to listen to songs without kind of having some element of analysis. Songs create a feeling and sort of tapping into that feeling, tapping into the experience of the artist. And I just thought, it would be a really good idea if we married, musical and psychological analysis of
mm.
popular songs in a podcast, just brought them together in a nice union. And here we are, songs on the couch.
Yeah.
So this is us. What about you, AJ? Why are you here? Why do you want to do this with me?
Well, I think when you approached me and pitched the idea to me, I guess that was never in my mind of thinking as a as a psychoanalytically way, like as a musician, and I'm sure not just musicians, the general listener does listen to the songs and try to, I guess, think about the lyrics more than what they really are. But when you suggested that, like, hey, we're going to take this just at one step further, let's put a psychology element to it. I was like, oh yeah, that's really cool. I don't think anyone's done that before. And I was like, oh, I've never done a podcast before, so let's put two and two together, like you said, harmonious in one.
Yeah, no,
Uh,
harmonious union. Look, I hope nobody's done it before, and if they have, and we're stepping on your toes, sorry about it. But
that's all right.
I think there's space for all of us. And
There he is.
yeah, so why don't you tell me a bit about your background then?
Oh, my background. Okay. Well, I'd say 20, nearly 20 plus years playing various musical instruments, being in various bands. Um, I'd love to do this, music industry as a full-time job, but unfortunately money does persist. But I do have an avid love of music. And I think I have a good trivia knowledge of lots of music as well. I play drums, I play guitar, I play bass. I've done recording in the past and mixing. Been in the studios, traveled to play gigs around the world. So I think I've got enough cards, aces up my sleeve to be able to put my 2 cents input
I
into
I
into
have
these
no
songs.
doubt. I wouldn't have asked you if I didn't think
Well,
you
that's
did.
exactly right. That's
So,
right.
yeah. Oh, that's great. So, it kind of marries your interests, right? Like, as
Yeah,
well.
absolutely.
Yeah.
And like I said before, as the average listener, we go, oh, what does this song really mean? Or we might Google a little bit, but I think
Yeah.
putting the psychology behind it is gonna
Yeah.
really just put the little cherry on top of that cake,
Yeah,
I think.
right. Well, we'll
Yeah,
give it a go. We'll give it a go.
we
But,
will.
it's those songs that, like, create a feeling and make you wanna know more about it,
Yeah.
that tap into something deep about the human experience that, yeah, feels like it's gonna be a, fascinating ride for us to
Mm,
take a good look at those songs and, yeah, figure out what some of the musical and sonic and psychological elements that sit underneath them that make them good tunes, that make us relate to them,
that's right.
that, yeah, maybe mirror some of our own experiences as humans. Uh, yeah.
Mm.
Wow. Could be great.
It is. So now obviously I can talk about the music side of things, but
Yeah.
I'm assuming what's your background, Mel, in all of this, and how do you play a part? Tell us a little bit about
Yeah.
yourself.
Okay. Well, like I said, I am a psychologist. I'm a psychotherapist.
Mhm.
So my day job, my day gig is to kind of take a deep look into people's minds and have a look at some of the mechanisms that are in their minds that create and perpetuate their suffering and,
Yep.
explore some of the things that have happened to them or not happened for them, using psychological theory to help them process those things and make sense of themselves and integrate their experiences and their parts of themselves. And it's a whole thing. I mean, it takes a long time to get trained as a
Yep.
psychotherapist.
I have no doubt.
Yeah, but I dabble in the arts too. I've sung on a couple of tunes well, and I just love music. And so I think, art is created from being human, right?
Hmm.
And every human has a mind. And it's just really good fun to kind of decode what is going on in the minds of people who create art. Um, I'm in terms of my job as a psychotherapist, I don't want to talk about that lightly. That's not fun. That's,
Mm.
to come to therapy and to put in the hard work to examine what's going on inside of yourself and where that comes from and to
Hmm.
challenge some of those things and to change is a really tough gig for the people that I work with. Um, it's a tough gig for all of us. Actually, we'd know, right? Because you and I, we had to work through some shit, didn't
Yes.
didn't we?
Yep. We sure
To get
did.
thinking about starting the podcast and
Mm.
in thinking about, what it might mean for us and for our lives and our histories and our family dynamics. And
Yep.
it actually brought up some stuff that and we felt a bit blocked, didn't we? We had to have a good think
Yeah.
if our psyches could cope with this. And
Absolutely. Yeah.
yeah.
Well, I'm not gonna lie. It's funny. A lot of professional artists, use the word imposter syndrome, and I wouldn't say I'm well known or popular, but that was like one of the things that I'm like, oh, I know, and now I know how artists feel when they say, "Oh, I think I'm suffering from imposter syndrome," and I was like, I haven't even started this podcast, and that was one of my blocks, and I was like, okay, we got to figure this out before we press record.
Same,
Yeah.
same, and I've got a bit of experience and training as a psychotherapist and,
Mm.
I've seen my fair share of stuff, but even I was thinking, oh, that's a pretty wide audience we might be reaching. I mean, I don't want to get ahead of myself.
Think
But
big. Think big.
thinking, but, what if I get it wrong? What if I'm wrong? But that's okay.
That's right.
If I get it wrong and if you get it wrong, people out there listening, we just want you to know that we are able to be stood corrected. The
Mhm.
disclaimer is that the thing that we're doing here at Songs on the Couch is it's all about the speculation. We're just hypothesizing.
Yep. Yep.
Nothing we talk about is definitive. we are absolutely happy to be wrong, happy to be corrected.
Mhm.
We're just two people from, a suburban part of a big city
Yep.
who are just
Yep.
who are just spitballing a few ideas, riffing on a few things, just having some good fun speculating.
That's it.
So, we don't have to be right, but imposter syndrome, AJ, I hear you. It's
Mm.
real and it's alive in the room, and
Mhm.
sometimes you just gotta feel the fear and do it anyway, right?
That's it. We have a passion, listeners, and we wanna share that passion, and, we'll make it work, and, you'll come along and join the ride with us and make it work as well.
Right, and stand as corrected. We might have a
Yep.
little segment, correction corner. We must,
Mm.
um,
Yep.
we might take a visit to the expansion mansion where we expand on a few,
Yeah,
um,
absolutely.
ideas. If you are a music lover and we get it wrong about one of your favorite artists, or if you're a psychologist, psychotherapist, counselor, mental health social worker, OT,
Yep.
anyone in the mental health allied profession. If I get something wrong, please get on the internet and write me a comment, and
Yes.
I will.
That's right.
And I'm happy to, yeah, explore the construct further and
Mhm.
work to get it right. So that's the disclaimer.
That is the
But
disclaimer. Yep.
that is the disclaimer. But tell me, AJ, I am really curious
Mm.
since we are big music lovers.
Yes, yes.
Please tell me and everybody your first conscious experience with music.
Oh, okay. My first conscious experience with music would probably have to be, um I've got a few, but the one that really comes to mind for me, and even now when I listen to this song, I get absolute goosebumps, is Yellow Brick Road or Goodbye Yellow Brick Road by Elton John. Um,
Yeah.
when we off air, we did discuss a different song, but thinking more in depth, and as we do, we think about our childhood
Yeah.
and how songs make us feel. I remember hearing that song on the radio because having parents that grew up in that era, we listened to the radio that still played music of that era
Yeah.
when I was a child, and hearing that song, I just was mesmerized. I think probably more by Elton John's vocals in just the way he told that story of fictional Wizard of Oz, even though it's not Wizard of Oz, but I guess it's he's referring Wizard of Oz as the fictional story of it, even though uh, Bernie Taupin wrote the lyrics, Elton singing them with that
Yeah.
piano. Uh, and as a kid, I just remember that every time that song came on, I
Yeah.
just I just was mesmerized by it. And I used to listen to the radio going to sleep. Like I had to have as a musician. Now I think back as a kid, I couldn't sleep in silence. I always had to have the radio on, and I'd always try and stay awake to see if that song would come on. Until I figured out that we could actually record the radio on a cassette tape. And then when I found it, because my parents didn't have it on CD, which was quite odd, or on record, um, I was able to record it on cassette and I just played it like over and over and over.
Wow.
Yeah.
How old are we? Cassette.
I know, right? Cassette. Well, the fact that you could record the radio on a cassette,
Yeah.
like there was no downloading music back then. It was like if you wanted a
No.
song, you had to wait for it to come on, quickly press record, and you'd always at the start of the
Yeah.
song, you'd always get a bit of the radio host introducing the song, and then you'd never hear the exactly ending of the song because they'd start talking as the song would end. But it didn't matter. You're like, no, I got a copy of that song. That's all that matters.
Yeah. Or you had to buy the album or the
All of
tape.
that. That's right.
Yeah, the
And
cassette tape.
a 6, 7 year old, I guess,
Yeah.
asking for CDs, probably, like,
Wow.
yeah,
Yeah. Okay, so maybe Goodbye Yellow Brick Road is, one for us to put on the list, of
100%.
songs to analyze. I mean, I've
Yeah.
got some ideas about it already, but I won't go
Mm.
there.
No, 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 we'll leave that one for the listeners for down the track.
That's right.
Our plan is, listeners, that we're gonna do all the decades. So, and hopefully we will set up some sort of Patreon where you can even,
Yeah.
join our Patreon and request your own song, and we'll do a deep dive of your specific song, and you'll get a copy of that song analysis from us as well. So stay tuned,
Right?
I think.
Yeah, like if this thing takes off,
Hmm.
we are open to requests.
That's it. That's exactly right. And
Like
there's
a
millions of songs. So we're not going to be short of a song, trust me.
No, just like
No,
you used to ring up the radio and ask the DJ to,
rest a
request the
song.
song. Mm,
Hmm. Yeah.
that's right.
I wonder if they
Yeah.
still do that now, though. I don't know.
Yeah, I think they do.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I think so. It's been a while since I listened to the radio, but,
Spotify's taken over my life. It's
right?
surprising. There's not much. You don't listen to the radio
Yeah.
much these days, do we?
Right, we don't.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, I've said my favorite, the song that started it all off for me.
Yeah.
What's your song, Mel, that started it all off for you?
Well, I'm gonna take you back to the late '70s,
Okay,
AJ.
let's listen. Let's have a listen.
Okay. I'll take you back there to a little place called Sydney, Australia.
Hmm.
And we were driving along the highway. Actually, no, it wasn't the highway. I no. Although I'm not that familiar with Sydney, but I'm pretty sure it wasn't a highway. Anyway, we were driving along in the car in my mum's Hillman Hunter vehicle.
Mm,
I don't think it had seatbelts. Just quietly.
no child safety back in the 70s. Just
Uh-uh. No, no. I think we'd been for a visit to my grandparents' house. We're driving home. We are driving along a concrete road. In Sydney, they have a lot of concrete roads that
mhm.
when you're driving along, they go gadunk, 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 you know,
Yep, yep.
that, yep. Remember that visit vividly? Anyway, we're heading along this road and we hit this bridge. It's called the Tom Ugly Bridge and it takes you over a body of water. I couldn't tell you what suburb. Um, yeah, I don't know. Anyway, Sydney listeners, you know where I'm talking about.
Yep.
Anyway, on the radio comes a song. It was All Out of Love by Air Supply. And
It's a classic.
it's a classic. And I reckon I would have been 4 years old. And like it moved me so much that I started crying. And, my
Yeah.
mum looks at me in the rearview mirror. She thinks something's wrong. She's like, "Oh my God, what's wrong? What's going on?"
Yeah.
And I was like, "Mum, this song, it's so sad." And I think she was a bit flabbergasted and shocked. But I think,
Mm, mm.
at 4 years old, I kind of I think at 4 years old is when developmentally we really start to develop awareness
Yeah.
and start to make memories. And clearly, as part of my awareness as a 4-year old, I might have had empathy for this guy who's telling me that he's all out of love and he's so lost without his partner.
Mm, mm.
And, you know, I don't know, there's something about the voices of the Air Supply guys, right? Like, actually, I recently watched a live version of that on YouTube, and I was very shocked to hear their speaking voices.
Totally different.
Oh, totally different,
Yeah.
but lovely dulcet tones. And yeah, I just think that's my first conscious memory of music being powerful and moving me. And yeah, I was only 4, but I had a lot of empathy. I think it was a foreshadowing to my future career
Yeah.
of of feeling, yeah, having a feeling for somebody else. So that's it. Air Supply for me, and I think I don't think I've ever listened to them much since. I could not tell you any other songs that they.
I was gonna say, is "All Out of Love" the only Air Supply song that you know?
Yeah, it is. I think it is actually. Um, but of that era as well, were a lot of similar ballads.
Mm,
Um, that was kind of stylistic of the time. But then you also had like, Kiss. That was fun. I remember watching Kiss on Countdown for our international listeners.
yeah.
Countdown was like the show that we had in Australia that was on Sunday nights that
Mm,
showcased all of the music that was in the charts, and so, yeah, I remember, like, bopping around the lounge room at, like, 4 years old to Kiss. It might have been, Rock and Roll All Night and Party Every Day, but
yep.
anyway, so yes, that is my first for
Completely 2 different songs.
2 different songs, but first foray into music and enjoyed them very much as a 4-year-old. But, why don't we have a think about what we're gonna do here on
Mm,
this podcast? Why don't we
sounds
just,
good.
tell the listeners, what it's gonna look like. So, do you want to take it away,
I think I can do
AJ?
that.
Okay,
Absolutely,
great.
Mo. Well, should we tell them what song we're gonna do, or should we leave that to the end? Maybe
We'll
leave
leave it to the end. We'll leave it to the end. Yeah,
Okay,
yeah, leave
okay.
it to the end. Yeah.
So we're gonna obviously grab popular songs of the decades. We'll give you a hint. The first song that we're gonna do is from the early 2000s, very popular everywhere. It still is very popular today. Um, my part of the podcast is, or the episode, I should say, is I'll discuss the music side of things. So the analytical side of the music, give you a bit of music theory, production theory, some information about the artist or the band, um, and then we'll talk about the lyrics. So as a general listener interpretation of the lyrics, what we might think they are, um, or what the singer is conveying or the band is conveying. Because not only do we feel emotion through lyrics, but we also feel emotion through melodies and sounds, and tempos throughout the song. You can't have one without the other. You can't have well, you can have really bad lyrics, but really good a really good
Yeah.
backing track, or vice
True.
versa. Yeah,
Yeah.
which has been proven, and
Yeah.
that in popular music. Uh, so we'll discuss, those both musical elements as a general for the general listeners out there, and then I
Yeah.
will hand the song over to you, Mel, and
Right.
and you'll look into the lyrics a little bit more deeper and tell us what they're really about. I'm guessing.
Yeah, yeah, that's exactly what I'm gonna do.
Mm,
So I'm gonna leave the history and the musical and the sonic elements to you, and
yep.
then, I'm just gonna put out there a few ideas about some of the psychological constructs that might sit within the song, some of the maybe rhetorical hidden meanings in the lyrics. Just speculating and just riffing on it, chucking a few ideas out there for you and
Mm,
I to discuss and have a think about, the state of mind of the artist and what they're trying to process, maybe what they're going through. Again, the disclaimer is I don't know these people. I don't know them personally. They're not my patients. I've never
nope.
seen them before in my life, but I'm just happy to have a little speculate based on psychological theory and constructs to take a deeper dive into what might actually be going on.
Mm. I
Yeah,
think that sounds really good. I don't know about you,
right.
but I can't wait to actually listen to our own
I
podcast,
know. I'm
listen back to
pumped.
it. Yeah,
I'm pumped. Yeah. So that's what we're going to do here. So,
that's it.
all right, well, let's wrap up our introductory episode. And AJ, why don't you tell the good people out there, the good listeners, what our first song is
Mhm.
that we're going to be analyzing in our next episode?
All right. So episode number 1 for us all, is Mr. Brightside by The Killers from their 2003 album Hot Fuss. Um, Banger of a track. Everyone knows the song, played everywhere. But I think what people might not really know, that even though it's a really upbeat dance track, it's played at weddings, clubs, pubs, cover bands, the radio, well, obviously the radio, but everyone plays it. There's lots of hidden meanings behind it, which we don't, discourage the listeners to go like, oh no, I don't want that song in my wedding, played at my wedding anymore. So we don't want the band to lose any royalties out, out of this, but it's
No.
no, but it's really when you really have a sit down and you really think about it and really listen to it. Yeah,
Yeah.
there's a lot going on in
Yeah,
in
there's
a 3.5, 4 minute song.
yeah, there's a bit going on. I can't wait
Mm.
to, take a deep dive into it with you, AJ.
Yeah, let's do it.
Shall we sign off and, say, see you on the flip side in our first episode of Songs on the Couch.
See you soon.
See ya.